まあいいけどさ。次に入りませんやけど、まあ普通にこれってやって、まあみちょこって誰？覚えてないんだけど。覚えてないけどな。コンペやってる人やんな。シルバー2なんだけど。どうにしよう。
That NAD actually stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, and it's a carrier molecule. Now the question is, what is it carrying? Well, it's actually carrying electrons and protons that can be utilized by the mitochondria to produce that wonderful energy that we call ATP. That's the whole purpose of it. But you need to think about it like this. NAD, biochemically, as a carrier molecule, it's actually NAD plus. Chemically,
dinucleotide. Okay. Nicotinamide.
As a carrier molecule, it's actually NAD plus. That's how it's floating through the body. Now, NAD plus ultimately wants to turn into something called NADH. And how does this occur? That's the next question. But before we jump into this, I need to talk to you about some really basic chemistry. Remember the periodic table where you've got hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and so forth? Hydrogen is the first atom on the periodic table. And just so you remember, you've got hydrogen, then helium, then lithium, right? Hydrogen, number one. It's number one. It has one proton. So that's one positive.
Wait, what if ganitoin ko na lang mag-add ako ng window para makita? Kulit. Hindi ko na lang ilagay para di makita yung map. Oh, stream snipers no more. Band. Okay.
Positive charge in its core. And it has one electron, which is a negatively charged thing, flying around the outside. This is hydrogen, right? This is the atom, hydrogen. Now that we've got that, one positive proton in the core, one electron that's negatively charged flying around the outside, if you want to interact with hydrogen, the only thing you can really interact with is that electron. Keep that in mind. All right. Now remember that within our body, we've got our micronutrients, things like, well, we've got macronutrients like proteins, fats, and carbs, and they get broken down into their micronutrients. So let's focus on carbohydrates getting broken down into glucose. Right? Remember that, glucose. And remember the chemical structure of glucose is C6, H12, O6. Right? 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, 6 oxygens. Now, glucose, in order for us to remember, we utilize glucose in the body to produce energy, right? So the way we do this is glucose needs to undergo something called glycolysis to produce something called pyruvate. And then pyruvate needs to enter the Krebs cycle in the mitochondria. And both of these spit out something. What they actually spit out is NADH, but we'll get there in a sec. And then the products of the Krebs cycle enter the electron transport chain, oxidative phosphorylation, ATP is produced. But we're starting off with glucose. Glucose wants to turn into pyruvate. So pyruvate has a chemical structure of C3H4O3. Now remember, one glucose molecule actually turns into 2 pyruvate molecules. So we actually have 2 of these. What that means is we actually have C6H8O6. Now compare that to the original glucose. What changed? Same amount of carbons, same amount of oxygens. But what we've done is we've stolen some hydrogen. And this is what NAD plus does. It steals hydrogen. Now, what specifically is it stealing from this hydrogen? That electron. And what it actually does is one NAD molecule will go to 2 hydrogen and steal 2 electrons because it can. And what it's left with is obviously going to be 2 protons, right? Now, one of the protons it takes on board, and the other one it freely lets float throughout the solution. So it releases this free proton, all right? So this is what happens. One NAD plus steals 2 hydrogen, takes 2 electrons, one of the protons, and frees the other proton. And what you're left with is NADH, okay? Now, when we look at glycolysis, this process of glucose to pyruvate, we produce 2.
Okay, so glucose. C6H12O6 wants to turn into a pyruvate, which is C3H4O3, diba? Okay. It wants to turn into 2 pyruvates. One glucose wants to turn into 2 pyruvates, which then in turns to C3H4O3. Tapos, if we have 2, we have C6HAO3. Why so slow lah? Oh fuck, blub. Okay. Ba't yan nag-lag? Oh fuck, ano pa isa? Flash. Bro, help me! The fuck? Why are you standing there? Okay. C3H1. Tapos?
NADH, which means we use 4 hydrogen. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's the 4 hydrogen from going from glucose to pyruvate. It makes total sense. So we're actually producing
No, it doesn't.
We take NAD plus and we turn it into NADH. The same thing actually happens in this Krebs cycle. We also produce NADH. Now why? Why does it want to do this process? So, this NADH that we're now producing, remember, it's got electrons associated with it. It's hugging these electrons, it's hugging some protons. Once it's in this mitochondria, what happens is that the NADH releases those negative electrons and releases those positive protons.
Sit down.
Left side, left side, left side. Low, 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 low. So blessed.
Well, yun sa mga lag eh, putang ina mo.
And what we find, I'll move over here, and what we find is that embedded in the inner membrane of the mitochondria are some enzymes. And what these enzymes do is they take these electrons and they pass them to each other. One electron goes to the next enzyme, that goes to the next enzyme. This is the electron transport chain. It's transporting electrons. And as it does this, it allows for these positive protons to be pushed into this intermembrane space. So through the transport of electrons, it allows for the protons to be pushed into this intermembrane space. And what we end up having is a high concentration of positive protons in the intermembrane space. High concentration here, low concentration here. We know diffusion, that this high concentration wants to go down to a low concentration. It wants to diffuse down, but it has to do it through a structure.
Fuck mo nilag, eh, di ako ganahan sa lag.
Structure, importantly, protons pushed
Ba't
into
siya
this
naabot?
intermembrane
Asa na siya
space.
process?
So through the transport of electrons, it allows for the protons to be pushed into this intermembrane space. And what we hijacks it to produce.
Asa siya gikan?
Hi, welcome back. My name's Kevin Tokoff. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel for future videos and notifications. In this video, I'm going to go over some of the very important principles and concepts behind one of the most important biological coenzymes that we have that's used to generate energy. And that's NAD, or sometimes you'll see this plus sign there. NAD, which stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. Okay? So first of all, let's go over why it bears this name. Well, the adenine in the name, the adenine comes from the fact that part of the molecule, which actually is derived from ATP, has adenine, this nitrogenous heterocycle right here. That's the purine base. And it's a dinucleotide. Let's look at why that is. What's a nucleotide? Well, a nucleotide in general has that nitrogenous base bound to a ribose, and then it has to have at least one phosphate right there. Okay, that's a nucleotide. So for instance, this right here could be A, G, T, C, or U, right? That's a nucleotide with the ribose and the phosphate. Well, notice, we can sort of draw this dotted line, I'll do this in gray, kind of right through this oxygen right there. Okay? And notice it sort of is a dinucleotide. On one end, we have this nitrogenous base, adenine, with the ribose and a phosphate right here. On the top, we have a very unusual nucleotide. We have a nitrogenous heterocycle up here, but it's not one that we've seen before. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then it's, of course, bound to a ribose and a phosphate right there. So basically, it's two nucleotides joined together, and it's joined together through a very special linkage called a pyrophosphate dinucleotide linkage. What does that mean? Well, a pyrophosphate is anytime you have one phosphate that is covalently bound to a second phosphate. So this right here, this is a pyrophosphate linkage right there. Sometimes it's called a...
Wait lang. Baka meron yun. Sa mga words. Correct ka na. Ayan. Pyrophosphate. There you go.
Diphosphate linkage, you'll certainly see that too, but that's how these two nucleotides are joined, therefore it's a dinucleotide. The first word, the first letter, also N for nicotinamide, comes from this nitrogenous heterocycle up here. So basically what this is, it's a pyridine ring with an amide attached to it. Okay, just a simple amide, and that's nicotinamide. So nicotinamide, adenine, dinucleotide. That's where the name NAD comes from. Now, what is the important function of NAD? Well, to come over here, I'm going to put the generic reaction that pretty much, if I can find my mouse, every single one of these reactions follows in biochemistry. They're oxidation reduction reactions, or redox reactions. And what NAD does is it's able to accept two electrons, and they come in the form of a hydride anion.
What? Naglog! Ang putang ina! Habi, putang ina mo. Bro! Kita mo to! Chat, kita niyo ba yun, chat? Ay, may chat ba ako? Ito mo eh. Nagayas akong order eh. Okay, sure. Huwag pa na lang to. Yaw, kung ano ba? Pinaka na. Kuhaan ko ng Garmar. Tangina mo. And kung stream ni po, tangina naman tong lagay.
Ends up reaction
Be Dr. Francis.
in another video. Okay, so those are some of the. Okay,
Hindi siya masabtan. Ito daw.
Cells obtain energy during cellular respiration by oxidizing food molecules such as glucose.
By oxidizing food molecules such as glucose. There's another side that you don't know, you don't know. Oh.
The energy derived from these oxidation reactions is used to form ATP. Oxidation can be defined as the removal of hydrogens from a molecule. Since a hydrogen consists of a proton and an electron, a proton and an electron are removed during oxidation. Whenever a molecule is oxidized, hydrogens removed, another molecule must be reduced, hydrogens added to it. During an oxidation-reduction reaction in the cell, an enzyme is involved in transferring the hydrogen, proton plus electron, to a coenzyme called NAD+. This enzyme has a binding site for both the substrate and NAD+. Once the substrate and NAD+ are bound with the enzyme, the hydrogen is transferred from the substrate to the NAD+.
I mean, async siya, so
In other
technically may
words,
klase
the
pa rin.
substrate is oxidized.
Ay, ganito na ba basta may online classes? It's a new generation of progressive development. Dugay nasad ko wala ka Hearts of Iron 4. Ay, pag nag Hearts of Iron 4 na lang ko. Yawa man yung paket klase, putang ina mo.
Wait. I'm flying for you. Maybe we will buy. Hey, go away.
Dala yun.
Left two way. B, I mean.
Yeah, ay lag eh. Butang ina na lang. Makareact na lang kag 5 times with the speed of light. Putang ina na lang talaga.
Loses the hydrogen, and the NAD+ is reduced to NADH. As with all enzyme-mediated reactions, once the reaction is complete, the products separate from the enzyme, and the enzyme can be used again. NADH, a high-energy
Yo
electron...
kan na iyo. Putang ina. Sida ikaw daw.
Cellular health determines the quality and longevity of our lives. This is a healthy cell. Inside the cell, we find the mitochondria, which are responsible for ATP energy production. As we age, the amount of energy produced by the mitochondria starts to decline. So how can we rejuvenate this process and produce more energy as we age? Let's see how NAD+ can help. NAD+ is naturally synthesized from vitamin B2 and vitamin B3 in the cytoplasm of the cell. The cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance within the cell where other components float within. Once NAD+ has been synthesized, it moves into the Golgi apparatus. Here, NAD+ interacts with nutrients from our diet, such as fats, lipids, sugars, and carbohydrates. As NAD+ continues to function, it eventually converts into NADH, which is the reduced form of NAD+. Once NADH has been synthesized, it then moves to the mitochondria, where ATP energy is produced. The mitochondria have an outer membrane and an inner membrane. The space
Oh, may chopsticks pa. Putang ina. Naman siya bugnaw ba eh? May pang makro kay Baskin. Mabugnaw pa. Oh, be, putang ina mo.
I think you will watch.
後の一人だ B でキャリアダウン
Wow, butan si Sir ah. I love you, Sir Marvin.
攻守を交代
Kaya din Sir Marvin Dudes eh. Attorney. Graduated in Ateneo de Valo. Passed the bar exam in 2023. Took doctors in law. Shisha Ball. Took anthropology in UP Mindanao. Humans right lawyer Bangsamoro. Oh sheesh. Bangsamoro. Ano pa nga? Himati writer. Wow, writer sa Himati. I wonder if ano talagang political spectrum siya. I mean, left siguro siya. But then again, communism. No. I don't. That's so out of context. Communism.
B でキャリアダウン
No, I didn't mean to say that, sir, is communist. Like, I meant to say na communism has its own political spectrum. Diba? Ang tanaw na ko ano, Band of Brothers. Ba't tayo nag-chat sa akin? Hello, babe.
Amen. Diba?
そういえば。Ha?
Ano naman to? Ano to? Alam mo?
Man, sa problema mo.
Ay, mani. Di. Daghan.
残り1名
Ano sa daghan?
Daghan kong problema. Ano? Tama. Cancel ang klase. Ugma. Di na kung...
Punta ka dito if makancel. Study ta. Meron kayo ko studyuhan. Dire ka sa akong laptop tapos ako sa akong computer. Hala, 800 akong ping lodi cakes. Can you believe that? 1,000
Ano lang? Loading pa ang stream pala. Ay, sorry. Ngayon pa lang kasi nakita ang ping.
One of the guys got hit in the arm with a piece of shrapnel. Took his arm.
B でキャリアダウン
Napakasakuan ana do spawn.
Ay, bug na ako ang kuan. Okay.
Gago.
Tawa ka.
Okay. Ang Astra kasi, hindi mo man lang natamaan dito sa. Ang saan dito nga?
Ako ang...
Hello?
Aking milk tea nga. Narinig ba ako?
May ba na akong matcha?
Milk tea matcha! Pwede naman yan!
Ito din ng matcha milk tea din na.
Matcha is flavor.
最後の一人だ
Nag-high pitch iyang voice.
Bakit?
Nag-high pitch.
Mas gusto mo ba deep voice ako, no?
Wala lang. Nagkain ako ng halang ngayon tapos rin. No. Gusto ko ganyan ng voice.
Patek.
Normal.
Yawa din ako mag-Valorant. Quit na ko na. Up na lang ako